we substitute?
No, I forgot that step. Sorry about that, Chief. Let's become, before our scripture reading here today, Luke chapter 4, verses 14 to 21. Then Jesus, in the power of the Spirit, returned to Galilee, and a report about him spread through all the surrounding region. He began to teach in their synagogues and was praised by everyone. When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set free those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour." And he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. Then he began to say to them, "Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." In this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. We're going to hand over to Graham to bring us his message today.
Thank you, Brad. It's great to be back. Good to be here. We've had a great holiday. Gal and I went up to Noosa, and it's good to be back here with you. I want to give thanks for those who led in my absence in all the different ways that on Sundays and during the weeks. It's great to be able to go away and go with peace of mind. So thank you so much for the gifts that were given in my time away. Today's a bit of a perfect storm of who knows what you're going to get this morning, all right? It's a perfect storm. Gal and I rolled back into town at about 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. I forgot to set my alarm to get up in time to be here this morning, so I'm a little bit like, oh, okay. It's the first day back. Today is a day that I find personally I struggle with. It's Australia Day. And for some, I want to encourage us to be patriotic. Like, let's be thankful for who we are as a nation. And if you've come from somewhere else to find Australia as home, there are a lot of things about Australia that you'd be really thankful about. And as Australians, there's many things about being Australian: the freedoms, the democracy, the relative, comrade friendships. There's a lot of things about Australia that's really, really good. I want to encourage us to be patriotic, but to not be nationalistic. All right? There's a difference, and I'm not going to go too far into it right now. But being patriotic means that we're able to be grateful and thankful for the nation that we are, but still be prepared to confront the parts of who we are that are difficult. That's being patriotic, to be aware we're not perfect and to work on where we're not. Which leads me to the other part of why my perfect storm of what I'm trying to gather in today as I stand here is that today for many is known as Invasion Day. It's a difficult day. Today's a very difficult day for some. I'm standing here today, in the last 7 days, there's been this very public collision of the faith of conservative evangelical America and basically what is the faith of Jesus. It played out in front of us. It's still playing out in front of us on TV, social media. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? With Bishop Marion Dunn. So where there was a prayer service, I think either before or after the inauguration of Trump.
The day after.
The day after. Yeah. Okay. And so and she basically used a 2-minute homily to appeal to the compassion and empathy of Donald Trump, and hit a brick wall, and then basically has received a lot of support, but also a lot of hatred and vitriol. Donald apparently requires an apology from her. It's been pretty horrible. Then, of course, there's the reading for this week, which we've just had read. Now, this is a reading that you probably maybe get a little tired of hearing. Maybe, I don't know. Would be about the fourth time we've had it in my time here. I'm just heading into this week, actually. Next week is the beginning of my fifth year here with you. And I know it was the passage that was shared I asked for at my induction here at Corrimal. It came up in the lectionary the following year. I had this passage for us just before Christmas when I was talking about the purpose and the mission of Jesus. And then it came up in the lectionary today. This is today's lectionary passage. And I just did a set and forget before I went on holidays and said, we'll do the lectionary passage. And this is it. I didn't pick this passage. It was already there. So as I have to be honest with you and say, I've got all these for myself, I haven't been able to settle them down. There's a big churn going on for me, a big disruption in my own heart and my own spirit about today, in particular, right now, being here sharing. Because one of the things I want to say is if we think that there's been a divergence going on for quite a while, and those of you who are older than me might be able to locate it further back than I can. But there's been a growing divergence between the faith of Jesus, what I would call the faith of Jesus, shared in today's passage. And what I would say is sort of the conservative evangelical version of faith. Like the ultra-conservative, because I've got a lot of conservative friends who are Christian people and I love them dearly. But I'm not trying to lump us all into the same place. I'm just trying to say there is a very strong conservative, particularly right-wing Southern American way of looking at the faith. And there's a big divergence going on. And if we think it's only in America, we need to wake up a little. Because it's creeping in here as well. And if it hasn't crept in too far, be aware that it's coming. And we have to make decisions, I think, somewhere on the way, both as individuals, as a community of faith and as a nation, we have to make decisions about where are we going to stand. Because there is this creeping going on in our society. It's coming, and if you think it's only in America, take note of this. If you're not already aware of it, can you name for me the prominent Australian that's been upfront and almost like Trump's biggest supporter, or the biggest supporter of the way that politics is playing out in America? Gina, our richest person, Australia's richest person, is seeing how American politics is working and has publicly said that's how it should be for us. This is how I see Australia going as well. She's named the person she wants as our Prime Minister and she's prepared to throw her money behind it to see the American way of politics take over or become the if you think I'm making this up, you need to read a little further, not too much further, it's there. And it's coming. I don't want to play just on fear. I want to be a little hopeful as well, and I'm getting there. If you also want to think it's only in America, this isn't going to be in Australia, or we won't ever have to fight this battle in Australia, I ask you, who's the media magnate who's put a lot of social media and written media power behind the movement of the right-wing conservative politics and religion in America? It's an Australian, Rupert Murdoch. So if you don't think it's ever going to touch us, we need to wake up a little. In some ways, it's already here. This sense of empathy, compassion, understanding being not just weaknesses, but actually opponents to the real goals of a society. That's what I would name as being the way that it's all playing out. There's a recent news poll that says that Australians these days, 69% of Australians now really just want Australia Day to be cemented in as the 26th of January. It's not that we don't know that that date causes pain, it's that we don't care anymore. And for some people it's more like, I don't actually, you know what, I want to make a statement. I really want you to suffer, and I want you to find, I want this day in the calendar to come around every year, and I want you to feel bad. That's what the statement is saying. When 70% of us are saying we really want Australia Day to be today. My patriotism says we can do better. I hope yours does too.
Your compassion says it too.
The faith of Jesus leads us in a totally different direction, and I'm sorry if you don't like what I'm about to say. Well, I'm actually not sorry, because this isn't me. These are the words of Jesus himself as we have them. Today's passage is right at the very start of Jesus' ministry. It's an ancient... Now, you think this just started with Jesus. Jesus is reading this from the book of Isaiah, which is about 800, 700 years prior to his existence. So it's a faith that's already in existence. He is in a line of the faith, of the understanding of this is how God, this is the nature of God and how God works. Jesus is locating himself in this place. If you think the other part of it is just look at Mary's song in the book of Luke, the Magnificat. Jesus grew up with this as the faith of his family. This is when he stands up. He says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He's got a Spirit-filled faith going on here. A faith that sees, names, meets and knows, and proclaims good news and God's favour for the poor, for the captive, for the blind, I presume people of all kinds of physical and disability, for the oppressed. He comes with the good news of God's favour for all. When that passage continues, do you remember who the people were who were upset by it? There were people who didn't... If we think this week is the first time that powerful people have been put out by the words of Jesus, again, there's a long line of power being, when confronted, of arcing up. They wanted to push Jesus off a cliff. These words, when lived out in action, are total disruptors. And we should never forget that. Because they stand in the face of what I would call, as we experience at the moment, this ultra-right-wing conservative evangelical kind of way of understanding and operating in the world. It's the way that creates division. It names us and them. It operates to exercise power over the weak. It deliberately does that. It says, not only do I don't have to see you if I don't want to. But I will actively, in fact, work to screw whatever I can out of you for my own benefit. How else do you think we get billionaires? Multi-billionaires. People who are using their power and control to further their personal, political, business and social power. That's what's going on. It erodes life. Now, you may not fit in the list I'm about to share. Thank God if you don't. But don't sit in that and bask in that place, because Jesus calls you with a responsibility. If this list doesn't apply to you, then you are called into the faith of Jesus to make a difference for those that do. And this list could be long, and I'm not going to make it long, but you know who I'm talking about. The poor, the disadvantaged, the battlers, the foreigner, the stranger to the land, the person who comes here seeking refuge. The oppressed. The people who feel like they don't fit in to social norms. Because the way that they're seen at the moment by the powers that be is that they're judged. Judgments are made about them that they don't get a say in, as if they're not real people. They're just a utility. We've seen it play out where people are scorned for being poor, or for being disabled, or for being compassionate or empathetic. People are mocked. It actually operates not just as a boundary where it's put up with. It's actually goes on the offensive to try and crush. At the moment, and I know I say this quite regularly, but there are so many people for whom life at the moment probably feels like it's shrinking a little, who feel unsafe because they just don't know where this is headed or where this is going, or maybe they can see where it's headed. Life might feel a little scary at the moment. Where do I turn? Who's on my side? Who will speak for me when the powers that be won't listen? Who will act for me? Because, my friends, that's the faith of Jesus. The ones who will stand, meet, know, speak, and act for the benefit of others. So for you and me, personally, I'm talking about when you're out on the street, in all interactions that you're having out on the street, work, study, wherever you're in your social interactions, at home. I'm talking about us as a church community together. What do we bring together to try and form and grow and be? If I'm right, and tough times are coming, and there's always been tough times. I know there's always been tough times. I just don't know they've always had such global impact so quickly. But if these tough times are coming, then this is the time for us to be courageous. This is the time to call ourselves Christians, as in followers of Christ, not as good behaviouralists, but as genuine followers of Jesus. This is the time to locate ourselves there. This is the time to be led by the Spirit who calls us, draws us, sometimes has to drag us to be more empathetic, to be more compassionate, to be more understanding, to be more loving. That's who I believe we're called to be in the face, as an act of resistance to the storm that's coming our way. Don't ever give up on the way of Jesus as the way. And if you're hearing this, if you're online or if you're in the room, I just want to make this statement. If the world does feel little unsafe, if the world does feel like it's shrinking around you and you feel judged, you feel a bit scared, you feel like you don't fit in, you feel like it doesn't feel right for you, then I want you to know, because Corrimal Uniting Church is good at this stuff. We are. I want you to know that this is a safe place. If you're feeling oppressed, this is a safe place. If you're feeling downtrodden, this is a safe place. If you feel like you don't fit in with social norms, this is a safe place. We won't always get it right, but we'll always do our utmost to embrace you. Friends, there are many lost and lonely, wayward, downtrodden people who are strangers to the land. Let's continue to be a place where all are welcome. Let's continue to be a place where all are welcome. I had the privilege on Remembrance Day last year, on November the 11th, to be over at the RSL service over in, what's the name of the park down the bottom down there? I've forgotten now. Memorial Park, yeah, okay, in Corrimal here. And on Corrimal Grove, okay, thank you. Down here on Remembrance Day last year. And was really blessed. There was a young woman who actually also performed at the Corrimal Carols by the name of Sophie Watson, who sang the Australian National Anthem on November the 11th last year. The beauty of it is that she has learnt the Australian National Anthem in Dharawal language. And so she performed the National Anthem in Dharawal first and then in English. That to me is patriotism. And I really feel it was such an inclusive and loving act on her behalf. She's done a recording of it for us, and we're going to play. I'm going to get Carl to play that for us in just a moment. I'm not quite sure what to do with it, in the sense that you won't know how to sing along to the first verse. I encourage you to sit and to listen and to hear the ancient language being shared and our national anthem being sung in Dharawal. I don't know whether to say to you to stand for the national anthem for the second verse. All right, we'll stand for both. I wasn't sure what to ask for. I will encourage you to let's stand and listen, and then there won't be words on the screen. If you want to sing to the national anthem alongside Sophie's voice as it comes, then I invite you to do so. Thank you. Thanks, Kyle.